So obviously welcome again to everyone who did not hear at the back. Obviously we're here to create some awareness and shed some light on what's actually going on in Bangladesh right now, the Durga Puja attacks, and try to learn what's going on and actually get some detailed stories and learn about what's happening. So just do some quick introductions first. I'm Prathan, I'm from the Hindu Society. I'm the religious interfaith officer there. This is...
Hi guys, welcome. My name is Mezabin. I am the president of Mughal Society. Hope you enjoyed the event today.
I am Shilpi. As you all know, I'm one of the speakers for tonight. I hope you enjoyed today.
Hi, I'm Raj. I'm here as a speaker as well today. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Himanish Goswami. I'm one of the speakers today. I'm really excited and happy to be able to be given this platform. So I would like to thank Bangla Society and the Hindu Society for giving us this opportunity. We thank you for coming on a weekday. It's not easy, and we hope you find this session informative, engaging, and fun. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna, and I'm one of the speakers for today. I'm also a team member of the Bindu's Instagram page.
Hello. Right, this is my card. I'll introduce myself. Hello everyone, thank you for coming. So my name is Amit Dev, and I'm I can put this on, editor of the British Bengali's Instagram page. I think that's what it is. And I'm actually a former UCL student, so I'm an alumni. Ages ago I was here, it feels like a decade ago. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about the Durga Puja attacks. What I'm going to do now is take you through a bit of a journey. I'll just open this up. Okay, so now what I'm about to ask you is going to take around 10 minutes. So I know it's a bit of a long time, but if you don't mind doing it, that'd be great. So can I ask you to close your eyes first for 10 minutes, if that's okay? Thank you very much. So what I want to do is I'm going to take on a bit of a journey, and I'm just going to read out something I prepared earlier, a bit of a scenario. So now imagine you're in a village in Bangladesh. You're in bed, just woken up. You can hear chickens running around and clucking. In the distance, you hear the 52-stroke engine of a CNG tuk-tuk fly by, and the chugging of the motor of a narrowboat gently gliding through. You know that chug 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 sound? The river that flows just adjacent to your village. You can hear cows mooing from the cowshed, and a little prayer service going on in the prayer quarters of your village. The bell dinging and female family members engaged in jubilation to awaken the spiritual energies that may be. You get out of bed and feel happy. You've got the week off from school, uni work, whatever stress you have in your life. This week you have a break. You smile to yourself, life is good right now. So you get ready, do the usual, have a shower and change into your smartest outfit. Something new that you've got yourself in the local bazaar, or perhaps gifted by a loved one. You're looking forward to today because today is Durga Puja. You have a little daughter, sister or niece. Her name is Ambika. She barges into your room and makes you laugh. She's running around with her mates, not a care in the world, stress-free as it should be. You step out of your room and can feel the Bangladeshi sun on your face. It's October, so it's still fairly warm. You've been looking forward to today for some time, especially given 18 months we've had with COVID. Suddenly you see yourself racing through on a very bumpy and arguably scary cycle rickshaw. It's flying by, perilously weaving in and out of the very congested Bangladeshi streets, Grand Theft Auto style. But you don't care because you're headed towards your local Durga Puja pandal in town, and you're about to meet family members, friends, or colleagues you haven't seen for quite a while. You arrive, undergo the usual haggling with the rickshaw driver. You should probably pay the quoted price regardless, so you can't help yourself, right? And then you head into the pandal, which is just a sea of what's called colours and shades and massive stuff. You look straight ahead and you can see the minorities on the stage. Durga and her children beautifully dressed and essentially beautiful works of art. Just in front of the stage is a band banging these great big drums that look like doors. They are Bengali drums that we call dal. You can smell the beautiful aroma from the incense sticks and chit-chatting from all the families meeting with each other. It's just a very loud and very colourful environment. Every sense is awakened. You're definitely in the moment. You look around and you see a smile on every face. But suddenly, things change. Now you sense worry, fear even. The music and chatter stops, it's dead silent now. In the distance you can hear chanting. You can hear slogans being chanted. Burn it down! Burn it down! Think back to how you felt when you woke up and thought about your day and the beautiful sounds you were hearing. How do you feel now? You look around, you start looking for Ambika. You can see she's no longer smiling and laughing. She's crying. You feel worried. You can see the panic-stricken faces of the women around you because they know what might come next. They know that women take the brunt of what is about to happen. Okay, thank you guys. You can open your eyes now. We'll give yourself back into the room. Thank you very much for participating now. So how do you guys feel? How do you feel now?
Scared? Sad?
So keep that with you, keep that thought with you. And what we're going to do now is take you through what happened in October 2021 this year during Durga Puja in Bangladesh. And I'll hand you over to Durga.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what happened this year, on October the 13th, during Durga Puja, a Hindu person supposedly defamed the Quran by placing it on the lap of Hanuman, a Hindu god, inside a temple in Kumilla. This staged video then went viral on social media. Mobs attacked the temple and this spread like wildfire. Mobs of more than 500 people attacked temples and vandalized shrines across Bangladesh. I'll just name some of the places where these attacks took place. You might have heard of some of these places or even visited some of these places. So we've got Kumilla, Chittagong, Chandpur, Rangpur, Noakhali, Lakshmipur, Gazipur, Cox's Bazar, Badrgan, Marisha, Munchiganj, Feni. Hindus were attacked. Some were killed, many were injured, and some women and girls were raped, even as young as 10. Hindu businesses were attacked and burned. Hindu homes were looted and burned down. The map over here that you can see, this map and the figures were published by Daily Star. However, the Hindu, Buddhist, Christian Unity Council reckon that these figures might actually be higher. On October 20th, CCTV footage then emerged, and it showed that it was a Muslim man who went into a mosque, took the Quran and entered the temple, and then placed it on the Hanuman statue. It was a staged plan, and this was used to instigate these attacks. However, the attacks still continued even after this footage was shown. There was a recent attack on Diwali on the 3rd of November in Bhawanipur village, and then on 11th of November this month in Kalinja village. During the Durga Puja attacks, a few Twitter accounts such as ISKCON Bangladesh and Unity Council Bangladesh were censored without any reasoning. They were trying to silence the people from speaking about the attack and spreading awareness. Iqbal was caught, but there were hundreds of people who were involved in these attacks, and no one has been brought to justice yet. Some arrests have been made, but charges are yet to be handed.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, so we're going to take you a bit back in time. We're going to talk about the history of Bengal. And to start with, I wanted to start talking about the pre-Mughal era. And in this era, we start with the very first king of Bengal, who was Raja Shashanka. That was in the 500 CE. And during this time, they say this is when the Bengali calendar would have developed. However, it has been challenged that during the Akbar reign in the Mughal Empire, that's also the time where they think that the Bengali calendar would have developed. So, and then we move on to the 750 CE, which is the Pala dynasty, and this is classified as the Buddhist era. And the reason why it's a Buddhist era is because actually Buddhism was the dominant religion at that point in time. There was a lot of centers and institutes of Buddhism, learning centers that were structured, and in this, basically there's one particular one which is actually on the bottom left, it's called the Sampara Mahavihara, which is a Buddhist center which exists in Rajshahi in Bangladesh today. So if anyone's planning to visit Bangladesh, you should go and see it, although it's in ruins at the moment. So then we move on to the Sena dynasty in 1070 CE, and this is where predominantly the Hindu religion was very, very strong. Sources say that there was a lot of persecution on the Buddhists during this time because of the Hindu orthodoxy, and the caste system would have been established then. Yeah, I would say that this has been challenged, and it could be that the caste system came a bit later. And then we move on to the Bengal Sultanate, and this is classified as the Islamic era. So this was predominantly led by a Turkic-Afghan leader called Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khalji, bit of a mouthful, really. He had his troops and managed to defeat the Sena dynasty. So going on to the Mughal era. So as some of you guys may know, the Mughal era already existed in some parts of India already, and this was classified as the Bengal Subha, also known as the Bengal Subha, and it came into Bengal around the 16th century. This is where we found Bengal and the Mughal Empire merged together, and at some point it was classified, as you can see on the chart, where Bengal and the rest of India is showing the same amount of GDP. So you can see the amount of wealth that was in Bengal in itself. So it's like a country of its own. And interestingly, the capital of Bengal, which is now Dhaka, was named back then Jahangir Nagar, is where the very popular muslin fabric was established. So that was an interesting fact I came across, and that was very popular and very profitable during the 17th century. And then we move on to the British era, and some of you guys might be familiar with this. This is when the British attempted many a times to establish themselves. They managed to purchase 3 villages in Bengal, one of which is Kolkata, which is now known as Kolkata. You guys all might be familiar. However, they did actually stay clear of the capital, Dhaka. The wealth's move from Bengal to Britain was phenomenal. As you all may know, there was a lot of transportation of wealth coming from Bengal to Britain. And although in the different parts of UK you may see Indian collectives, but there's a particular place actually we want to mention, which is the castle in Wales, where Lord Clive has a museum of Indian collectives, and you get to see all the different collections there. And in this picture, I wanted to show, which is quite interesting, where on the left you see the East India House headquarters for the East India Company. So it was huge, and they say the East India Company had an army of its own, really. So you can imagine to what extent they were powerful at that time. And then the same, so the building on the right is now the Lloyd's building in London. And just to give this historic background, that building over there is now this building over here. And questions arise really, which is usually, typically in this country, natural trust, historical buildings are preserved. And funny enough, this was one where the historic value was completely wiped out. So some food for thought there. And then came the first partition, and so British ruled for 200 years odd, and there was a decision in 1903 that was made by the Brits to say, okay, we're gonna partition with Bengal. And the official reason they provided was because Bengal was so big. It had 78 billion people. However, really the real reason, we believe, is the impact that the protests would have had on the rest of India, and that was a chance that the British didn't want to take. And when I say protest, I mean the famous Swadeshi movement in 1905 that started in Calcutta. This was a movement of moving from taking foreign goods and using your own domestic goods. So it was trying to work on making Bengal a more independent state. And within this movement came a very, very famous slogan you may all have heard of. It started as Vande Mataram, because the Bengalis started it. And then it went into the national slogan of Vande Mataram. And it's a very, very powerful slogan, I would say. So these questions, why the partition? Divide and rule, literally divide. And it's divide between religions. And those two religions were Hindus and Muslims at that point. And really to weaken the togetherness of that particular state. On that note, I just wanted to move to Amit on the next slides.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Shilpi. So I've got some facts and figures here that I need to refer to. So, right, so Shilpi's mentioned about the first partition in 1905, and that's when really writing started, communal violence really commenced in India. And it all came to a head really on Direct Action Day, which was on the 16th of August 1946, where you had just carnage on the streets of Calcutta. So what we understand from our research is that there was a strike by the All Indian Muslim League, and there's sources and references that quote Muhammad Ali Jinnah stating this before the strike. He stated, apparently, we should have either a divided India or a destroyed India. And then the attacks started. So some sources quote around 4,000 people died and 100,000 people were made homeless. Can you imagine 100,000 people homeless in the streets of Calcutta? Just that figure, 4,000 people dying in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. And then from that first riots in Calcutta kind of spread throughout the country, and Then we have, of course, Noakhali riots. Does everyone know about the Noakhali riots here? Yeah? Okay, so you already know. So the day of Durga Puja, which is a Hindu festival, which was the 10th of October 1946. You've probably heard of this happening in modern times, but it happened then as well. So apparently a false rumour was spread around then. According to these rumours, as some Sikhs, non-Hindu Sikhs, had destroyed the Dairy Sharif shrine, which is the Islamic shrine in Noakhali. And that then led to a protest, an enraged mob really, that went around Noakhali and essentially massacred the Bengali Hindu population there. And you know what that led to as well? I hate to say it, but you know, it led to rape as well, and it led to forced conversions. So there's some figures quoted here. So they reckon around 5,000 people were killed. There's no figures for how many women were raped that we could find. Maybe you have yourselves in your own research. And there's another astonishing figure. Some 90,000 Hindus were classified as marooned. So what I think that means is they were restricted within their houses. So any movement that they wanted to kind of engage in, they had to get permission, they had to pay jizya tax and so on. And there's something else that we read, which is quite disturbing. So some of these Hindu women had to endure watching their husbands being killed in front of them. They were raped, they were then forcibly beat, and then they had to marry the perpetrators and live this life. It got so bad that Mahatma Gandhi actually toured Noakhali for a number of months. And as you know, Mahatma Gandhi, from various quotes, is always about peace and unity. But there was something that we read which kind of alludes to him not saying that there. So usually you hear him about saying, go back to your home, you'll be fine, you'll be divided. A united country. But he didn't say that in Noakhali. He didn't urge the residents to go back home. And this is where the first kind of migration started to occur from East Bengal over to other parts of India, like West Bengal and Assam. So we move on to the next slide, please. So we had Direct Action Day, we had the Noakhali riots, and of course it's quite clear that we're going to get a partition. Certain factions of the Indian population want separate homelands. So partition came, and on the 15th of August 1947, Pakistan got independence, and then on the 15th of August 1947, India got independence. But something else occurred as well. I've got some stats I would like to share. Here they are. So everyone knows Brexit, right? No one else had voted. So there was something similar in Sylhet. Has everyone heard of the Sylhet referendum here? Yeah? Okay. So there was a referendum there. So think about Brexit. How long did we have to prepare for Brexit before voting? We had a bit of time, didn't we, to think? Well, Sylhetis, they knew about the referendum on the 3rd of July 1947. 3rd of July 1947. But the actual vote was held on the 6th of July 1947. Can you imagine? Anyway, so the result was 56.56% of Sylhetis decided to leave. Sylhet was part of Assam back then, to leave Assam and join East Bengal, Pakistan, and 43.44% wanted to remain. Okay, so the majority wins, right? But interestingly, there were some border districts, like Mughal. I'm from Mughal. Some other people here as well. They won't point you out. So Mughal is a border district still, and we know that's part of Bangladesh now. So they voted overwhelmingly to remain in Assam and join India. But we know they joined East Bengal. And Karimganj overwhelmingly voted to join Pakistan, but made in India. So it makes you think, what was the purpose of the vote when you were already decided what was going to happen? So we've got 14th and 15th of August 1947 as Day of Independence for Pakistan and India, but the actual Radcliffe lines weren't published until the 17th of August. So people didn't know where they're going to be inside of the fence, so to speak. They're going to be until the 17th of August. And after that, you have this massive migration. The largest migration of movement of people in history really occurred during the partition after the 17th of August. Some 20 million people were displaced and changed sides. So everyone probably knows about the Amritsar situation, the massacres there in Bengal was pretty much the same. Those people. Okay, should we go to the next slide, please? Right. So now we're in the Pakistan era. Just one second. So now we're in the Pakistan era. So that partition, we've got the Pakistan era. In 1947, there was partition. Pakistan was established. And then on the 24th of March 1948, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, everyone knows, of course, the land government of Pakistan, he delivered a speech to a crowd at Durga University, and this is what he said. We can play the video.
Leave no doubt that state taxes of Pakistan is going to be also a non-election.
Cool. So if we go back to restart the video. Yeah, go back. Perfect. We leave it there. That's fine. Okay, so he essentially stated that Urdu is going to be the official language of Pakistan, even though there's a majority of people that speak Bengali. Right, and this then led to, as you probably know, the 1952 language movement, kind of riots and demonstrations, and people died then as well. And this was the precursor, this is really the precursor for independence for Bangladesh. Move on to the next slide, please. So now we're just moving forward in time to the 1970s Pakistan elections. So we know that partition happened, and then we know that Urdu was going to be made the official language of Pakistan, and we had the language movement then as well. And then what else happened during the Pakistan period is, already mentioned that the majority of people were Bengali in, if you take the two wings together, West Pakistan and East Pakistan. Even though there's more people, Pakistan at that point received a lot of state aid, and that state aid was disproportionately favoured towards the western wing. East Bengal is said to have produced more towards the combined Pakistani GDP. Even then, state aid was not distributed according to that metric either. So I think Bengalis had enough by that point. But then the last straw, just before this election, there was a cyclone in Bangladesh, the Bola cyclone occurred and devastated the Bay of Bengal and other parts of East Bengal. And the problem is relief from the Pakistani government, which was centered in West Pakistan, was very, very slow. So leading up, I think Bengalis had made their mind up on which way they're going to vote. So there's three people here, which you probably know already, but I'll just remind you and make sure I get the names right. So on the left, we've got Yahya Khan, president of Pakistan at the time. In the middle, we've got Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, that name probably rings a bell, right? In the middle, and then on the right, of course, everyone knows Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So, Sheikh Mujib, the election happened and he won a landslide. He had a mandate to lead the whole of Pakistan, right? But he was never afforded that mandate. So instead of enabling Sheikh Mujib to form a government, which was his legal right, Yahya Khan decided to seize the National Assembly. He then imposed martial law within the country. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so there was discussions after the election. And I should say the 1970 elections happened in December 1970. So there was a few months of to and fro and trying to form a government essentially. Sheikh Mujib was trying to do, and then it was clear that nothing was working. So instead, on the 7th of March 1971, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman decided to deliver, I would say, the 20th century most impassioned, evocative, motivational speech of that century. And to give you a flavour of how powerful that speech is, Shilpi and Manish are going to give you a short excerpt from it.
আজ বাংলার মানুষ মুক্তি চায়, বাংলার মানুষ বাঁচতে চায়, বাংলার মানুষ আজ তারা তাদের অধিকার চায়। এই বাংলায় হিন্দু, মুসলমান, বাঙালি, নন বাঙালি যারা আছে তারা আমাদের ভাই। তাদের রক্ষা দায়িত্ব আপনাদের উপরে, আমাদের যেন বদনাম না হয়।
Today, the people of Bengal want liberation. The people of Bengal want to live. Today, the people of Bengal want their rights. In this Bengal, Hindu, Muslim, Bengali, non-Bengali, those who are here are our brothers. The onus is on you to protect them so that we are not dishonored. I'll just like to make some comments about this speech. Myself being born and brought up in the UK, I've been told and I've heard stories of the 70-month struggle for my father, my late grandmother, and just putting yourself in that position where human rights, basic needs for human survival is compromised. That in itself makes us realize the struggle that our parents and our grandparents went through. Comparatively, we have had really easy upbringings. We didn't have to think about the next bomb hitting our house, or the next person to, rape our mothers or our aunties, or even our daughters. Sheikh Mujib gave a lot for Bangladesh, and with that, he was able to initiate and encourage a spirit of resistance, a spirit of survival, but a spirit to fight. And so, Ahmed will speak about this, and he has been, but the war that happened, the chances of East Bengal getting independence was very slim. As a ratio, it's probably going to be like 1 to 10, as an example, 1 to 15. You may correct me. But the chances were very slim. But Sheikh Mujib was able to create the spirit of 71, like you say. And if you just put yourself there, you got no training in the army, you've just, before 71, you were just used to your normal work, eating, sleeping, and suddenly you're told to fight for your country. What do? There's no chance to sit back, because if you sit back, you don't speak Bengali anymore. You don't get to practice your religion anymore. So the option was to fight. I can say this with pride that my father was actually part of the Liberation War. He was engaged in the art side. Now, in any struggle in war, arts and music plays a big part. There are songs of resistance, songs of freedom, and my father was part of that. And I feel proud that he's been able to be recognized. But of course, I feel sad that a lot of my relatives died fighting for Bangladesh. The speech that me and Shilpi just presented to you gives you a flavor of the kind of a person that Sheikh Mujib was. He believed in secularism, he believed in human rights, he believed in equal opportunities, and he wanted Bangladesh. Let's not forget, East Bengal and West Bengal as a general has contributed immensely to arts, literature, and to be honest with you, our art and culture is so rich. I mean, most of you here are Bengalis, so you would know our culture and us, but it's something we have to hold close to us. Because there is a threat in Bangladesh that there is an attempt to wipe out culture as we know it. And it's happening as we speak. So we have to raise awareness, and I hope that you enjoy the next part of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, right, so thank you for that, guys. Should have been finished. So, I had a little excerpt from it. So that was on 7th March 1971, and then within a matter of days after that speech, the West Pakistani army landed in East Bengal, and then play I think about 5 minutes, this next minute and a half actually. I should warn you, it's a bit graphic. I mean, it's blurry, but it's quite graphic what you hear. So if you want to look away or put some headphones in or just walk out, feel free to do so. Okay? Okay.
Some diplomatic fallout from the recent war between the Indians and the Pakistanis. The Indians, in their anti-American mood, have decided to raise the level of their diplomatic relations with North Vietnam. The State Department is protesting, and the Russians say they keenly recognize the development of Bangladesh. One of the reasons why there is a Bangladesh today is the fact that troops from West Pakistan, Punjab, savagely terrorized the Bengali population of East Pakistan. Perhaps 1 million people died. Here now is some blurry videotape taken 10 months ago, hidden since then, of how the terror began.
This slightly blurry amateur videotape, which has been kept hidden for the past 9 months, shows Pakistani soldiers executing students, professors, and workers at the University of Dhaka last March 26th. The first sequence shows Pakistani soldiers forcing students to carry and pile up the bodies of victims already killed. The tape was made secretly by a professor of engineering on a portable tape machine hidden on the roof of a building about 300 yards from the killing. A Pakistani execution squad lined up slightly to the right of the center of the screen. About 20 people were herded onto the killing ground from the right corner of the picture. One man, dressed in black, dropped to his knees and begged for mercy. The Pakistani soldiers opened fire. One man was left standing after the first barrage. He was finally killed by the Pakistani soldiers seen with a rifle. Then the Pakistanis went among the bodies, shooting close up to make sure their victims were dead. This is just one small episode of the Pakistani massacre. The killings were the beginning of a reign of terror by Pakistan, which set off a revolt by the Bengalis and ended in the liberation of Bangladesh. Ron Nesson, NBC News, Dhaka.
Okay, if we move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. Right, so before I carry on to the actual independence, the Victory Day, Bangladesh. So you've all probably heard these figures before, but I'll just restate them anyway. So during Operation Searchlight, which was a military operation, which was led by the West Pakistani army, it's quoted that up to 3 million people were killed, right? 3 million people. So to try and work that out in your head, you know, how many bodies would be hiding on literally in the streets and rivers. So to start off with, it is thought that there was indiscriminate killing of people, of Bengalis, Hindus with Christians. But then later on, there was this shift, and what started happening is Hindus were then targeted. And you're probably thinking, how can that be? How would you know someone's a Hindu, someone's a Muslim, apart from the obvious imagery? So what happened is there were what are called Raza cards. Does everyone know what a Raza card is? So that's a Bengali person who is sympathetic to the West Pakistani ideology and thinking, essentially, in terms of nationhood. And so they helped the West Pakistani army find Hindus, essentially, and target and kill them. It's then thought that from this operation, 400,000, up to 400,000 women were raped. It wasn't a nice time at all, was it? Right, okay, so if we now move on to the Victory Day, so this was on 16th December 1971, so this is where the war was effectively won by Bangladesh, helped by India, of course. And this picture here is a glorious picture, which is a signing of the instrument of surrender. So we have on the left Jagdeep Singh Arora of the Indian Air Force, and General A.A.K. Niazi on the right, who was leading the West Pakistani cause. So we go on to the next slide. So we have freedom now in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is now recognized by many nations across the world, and eventually will be recognized by Pakistan as well, as a sovereign nation. But was everyone free? I don't think so. So this is just a list. Now we could have listed every single attack, but we wouldn't have enough slides really to show you. So we just pointed out here some of the major attacks that have been committed on minorities, and you'll see a lot of it is targeted towards Hindus in Bangladesh. So it started in 1965 with the Vested Property Act. Prior to that, it was called the Enemy Property Act, and this was an instrument that was utilised to grab Hindu land, effectively. And when Bangladesh became independent, it was then rebadged to the Vested Property Act, and this has not been abolished yet. It's still there, and the land grab is still happening. We all know that Sheikh Mujib and his government founded Bangladesh on secular principles, and the constitution in 1972 was based on secularism. But then after his assassination, things changed in Bangladesh. We know that in 1977, secularism was removed. I mean, you can question whether that will change anything in terms of attacks on minorities. And then there were certain other events that happened. Another major one in 1992, and we'll talk about that in a bit, in a bit more detail, which is the aftermath of the demolition of the Babri Masjid in India. So then there was repercussions from that in Bangladesh. And in 2001, so we know for a fact in Bangladesh, if there's an election, minorities are going to be persecuted, they're going to be attacked. So a big one was in 2001. And you can see what happened there, and you can probably guess why this happened. And then moving down to 2016 onwards, this is where you get the rise of Facebook fake news, essentially, spreading. So a purported Hindu person has a Facebook account, apparently they put a post that's defamatory towards Islam, and then there's an attack. This starts occurring from around 2016 onwards. And of course this happened in, does everyone know about the Shanamganj attacks this year, by the way? Yeah. Okay, so everyone knows about Durga Puja attacks, but there's already been an attack, a major one in around March, I think it was, wasn't it? Was it March this year? Was it March this year in Shanamganj? There was an attack where there was a Facebook fake post effectively, and there was an attack on a village, Hindu village. And then I think we're up to date now with the village attacks. So next slide, please. Right. So before we go here, what we were planning to do is have a break. But I think it's a good time to pause because a lot of information is just thrown at you. So sorry about that. Let's breathe for a second and let's take some questions. Any questions, any thoughts, anything that you want to share right now? Yeah? Yeah.
Sure. Hello. Apologies if I mispronounce this, but namaskar. My name's Arjun. I'm not a Bengali, I'm not Bangladeshi. I'm a British Indian, born in the UK. My main question is, what can non-Bangladeshis and non-Bengalis, what kind of people who are less aware of what's happened, what can we do to help the Bangladeshi Indian community going forward? And I understand this might be covered in the latter half of your talk, so if you don't want to answer now, then we can leave it.
That's fine, that's a great question. Would you like to take that, Donna? With your LinkedIn page and how you've been fighting and how you've been helping social media?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just sharing posts, raising awareness, which we luckily got to use our platform for. The main thing is just sharing, because we have noticed that obviously there hasn't been as much coverage. There wasn't much media, so yeah.
Can I just add to what Donna was talking about? I think it's fundamental to address our education system here as well. I studied history here up to GCSE level, and I was not taught about this. And this is big. This is up there with the most deadly genocides in living existence, but it's not taught in schools. So as students that we have here, I'm no longer a student of institutions, but I'm still a student because I'm always learning. But we saw our responsibility to raise this with our higher education systems and colleges, to raise awareness about this. We get taught about the Holocaust, again, very sad and very distressing time for the Jewish community, especially the First World War, Second World War, of course. But this is no different. And, I think we should be pressuring education systems to be teaching this.
Thank you. I actually don't have a question. I wanted to share something. I wanted to add something to this. It was a wonderful presentation. I loved it. At least we are talking, and at least we're trying to raise this issue, and this is wonderful. We need to talk more and more about it. I think we've missed a few points here. Still the partition, from the partition and our independence and everything that's been happening, one thing that played the major role is religion. Religion was used during the partition, during the independence, and it's been used now. What is sad is, the people in Bangladesh, the majority who's from the Islamic background, they'll be crying Islamophobia in foreign lands. They'll be fighting for the rights of people in Palestine, people in India, people in so many other countries. But what they forget is they're like the people next door. They live in denial. We live in denial. What happened is, we talked about when he was presenting, I think he couldn't find the examples and in the media enough that he could use it in his presentation, because it's not there, because we're living in denial. In last 9 years, there were 3,600, more than that, attacks happened in Bangladesh against only the Hindu minority people. Can you imagine that in 9 years, only in last 9 years, 3,600 plus, and that came in Ayn and Salih Skander's report, and that's only a published fact. There are even more attacks. So in every day, there is somebody getting attacked in Bangladesh, and we don't know about it, because our people are living in denial. They love to say that, no, our minorities are fine, they are living better than the people in India. Look at the minorities getting attacked in India, so that we can justify what's happening in our country, the people living next door. And that denial is the main problem here. We have to raise awareness, we have to talk about it, talk more and more about it. And we have to make them identify and address that there is a problem, and then only we can find a solution. So the gentleman over there who said that what can we do, please talk about it, tweet about it. If you write in newspapers, articles, write about it. Let the world know that there is a problem. Then only we can find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to add though, thank you UCL Bangla Society who came up with this initiative. So I think we're starting to have some awakening, if that makes sense, within our own community.
Must I create one sentence?
Oh yeah, sure.
Anyway, what this gentleman said, that's all I would like to say. This is a crime against humanity. If this happens anywhere in the world, any of us, not about religion, not about any other ethnicity, everybody should support it, protest against it, and ask for a remedy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to add anything to that? Any other questions, any other thoughts at the moment?
I think this side has been active, this side has been quite passive. I'm sure you've got things you want to ask. Don't be shy, I'm shy too right now. Just not showing.
Well, if you've got anything that comes to mind, just grab one of us. Sorry.
I just wanted to add that. So when we do share things and your friends maybe sends a reply with a prayer sign or an emoji, or oh this is so sad, you could question them. So why can't you share this? I've been posting things, and I've had so many people, sending the prayer symbol to me, or saying, I hope you're okay, or being overly nice to me, But what really bothered me is, why aren't you sharing it? When Black Lives Matters, and then there's so many other things like, the Palestinians, the Syria war and stuff, I used to post their stuff. So when people were posting things, I would reshare it. I wouldn't just do a symbol, like prayer symbol. I would reshare it. So when your friends, when you share something and your friends send you the symbol sign, like prayer or hope you're okay, or they're overly nice to you, just ask them, why can't you share it? Why aren't you talking about it? Don't ask me if I'm okay. Don't be overly nice to me. Share it. Talk about it. Just like all the other, movements. That's all.
Can I just add on the point that you said? I was speaking with Ahmed the other day, and we was talking about Hindus generally. We are kind of apprehensive to talk about our own sufferings. We almost feel like if for example, if I was talking about this, we fear that someone's going to come back and say, but what about this? So there's this kind of whataboutery going on, and I think we get affected by that. But in this day and age, freedom of speech, we are allowed to talk, and we have to use the tools we have. We are lucky to live in the United Kingdom, for that matter, where we can actually practice our freedom of speech. So we have to use the tools as we can. Yes, we must not incite racial hatred, violence, absolutely not. But we must talk about this, the past. We must keep it going in our, in our language. And as for sharing, you carry on sharing. Eventually, you will inspire the next person to share. But we need to keep it going as a conversation. And the more we converse about this, it becomes common knowledge, and not hidden away in some bookshelf. So it's all our duty to talk about this. And as what Lily said here, we cannot be in denial. We need to wake up. We need to see what's going on, and it's reality. It's like Schopenhauer said, this is human rights. This is human rights. This is what many countries have been fighting for. This is basic. This is not religion. This is not only about religion. This is about standing up for humans. So let's keep the conversation going. This is the first of hopefully many events. And this is not bad turnout actually, so I'm quite impressed with the turnout. It's a weekend, so it's a weekday and it's an evening, so thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add to that as well.
Yeah.
It's just like, even I've seen it as well, like, as you said, Hindu, youth in general are generally very passive when it comes to things. You don't turn like a blind eye to it. Even I used to do that, to be honest, as well. but like it's important to talk about it. I truly commend like other religions, other communities, because they always stand up for their own beliefs, always talk about it. And I think us as Hindus, we should also do the same and be proud of our religion and culture.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's one here.
This is a bit off the tangent. Maybe like how there's Black History Month that exists. Maybe we can all vote for a Brown History Month.
Well, there is the South Asian History Month. There is one.
Heritage.
Or Heritage, sorry, yeah, South Asian Heritage Month. There is one.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. It's not very popular.
Exactly. We should follow the Instagram page, probably. Is there another one? Is there? Oh, hi.
Sorry, I'm a bit anxious at the moment, but I was going to say that I've spoken to a lot of like Hindu people. I was very involved in my Hindu society at my university, and what upset me was the number of times I shared and I was so passionate and I spoke about my own experience and the number of people that just didn't care. And it was from my own Hindu community in my university, and it was also from my own Bengali community in my university. And it just goes to show that we need to stay stronger as us. We need to stick together, you know, because there's not many of us. There is a lot of us, but there's not enough of us to have a voice. And I feel like we need to get together as much as we can and speak up, because we've been speaking up for so many other people, so many other communities. I was also constantly sharing for Black Lives Matter, for Palestinians, everything, but I did not, even from the Hindu community and from the Bengali community, I didn't receive that back, you know? So personally, I think with me, I've just been very blunt to any Hindu person who's actually come and been like, yeah, we feel for you, we stand with you, but if they haven't shared it, it's just sort of, I've just had to say straight up, why haven't you shared it? Why haven't you shared it? This is your religion, these are your people. Just because we're from a different country doesn't mean you can't stand up for us. And just because it's not trending and it's not big, doesn't mean you can't stand up for us. It's very, how do I know that when my mum's working and she's gone back to Bangladesh, something's not going to happen to her? How do I know that? How do I know that something's not going to happen to a family member in Bangladesh or anything? How do I know that? And that's what people don't realise, because we all know each other. Most of us know each other. The Hindu Bengali community, everyone's tired. So how do we know that we're going to lose someone? We don't know that. So I think we need to be 10 times stronger, not just on socials, but to people straight up, be like, why aren't you sharing it? Like, you just have to be firm with it. I think that's my personal opinion.
Here. Hi. I just wanted to say, basically, I've seen a lot of people on Facebook who have got a very high platform, and not any of our people from that platform who has got a lot of followers have followed any of this or shared any of this. It's only purely because they have a lot of Muslim, maybe colleagues, friends, not to offend them, but I personally think that is wrong. The start has to be within us. It has to be you who make the step. One will follow the others. And that's something that we need to start pushing all these big platform people to start. Yeah.
Any more thoughts? Any more questions? Anyone? Yeah, please.
So Arjun said about what can you do to help if you're not a Bengali. So those people who are not Bengalis or Hindu, you need to recognize that Bengali is ours, it's our culture, and so much of Hindu culture comes from Bengal. So if you're Gujarati, Punjabi, whatever South Indian, you need to identify with that land and not just West Bengal and Bangladesh as well. So that's my take on it, because when we think of it as separate, then we're not going to care.
Just to add to Pritish's point about Bengal and the importance of the land of Bengal, or sort of spirituality. So ISKCON as a movement, ISKCON is one of the largest kind of Hindu spiritual movements, and it probably is, and it's very well organized. But if you look at the roots of ISKCON, and it's based on Gaudiya Vaishnavism. This originates from Sylhet. This is from this part of the world that my father and forefathers come from. Many of you are from there as well. So we have to think about roots. This is important. The countries are there to divide. Countries, politics, religion divide. But you have to look at the roots, the land. On the way, my dad called me and said, make sure you say this. You say that the land which we are born is as sacred as heaven. And my dad said that, make sure you say that. Make sure people hear that. That there is a connection with your homeland where you're born. In the beginning, when Omi was talking about to close your eyes and he took you to the day and is setting the scene, that kind of love for your homeland is important, because it's from the homelands that we create culture, language, music, etc. So we have to not think of it as East Bengal, West Bengal, but we have to look at the roots of where most of us come from and also our spiritual beliefs. Thank you.
So, yeah, right, I think it's time for a break. I just want to add something there. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And on the topic of influence, essentially. So, I think you would agree, Donna and me, this is the only time during the Durga Puja attacks that I've seen influencers actually engaging. Not many, but even just a few. Before, Sunamgoj, did you see any? There might be a couple, but I think there's a shift. I've seen a shift. Do you have a question?
Well, not a question. It's only because I think this Durga Puja attack happened, and everybody's aware because of ISKCON as an international happened to them in Bangladesh. That's why there was so many times Bangladesh had an attack on Hinduism, religious thing. Nothing has come about. It's because of the ISKCON movement. This thing has happened. Otherwise, nobody would have. I mean, we would hear about these things. Oh, it's happening. How many times do we have all this discussion, right? That's fine.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. So we'll take one more then.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for taking this again. I totally agree with you. Like I said, in the last 9 years, more than 3,600 attacks happened. We didn't know about it. We only know about Nasinagar, Shabla, and some of the big incidents, and that also like the people of Bangladesh knows about it. Not the outside world or the global media. Nobody knows about it. No one. Maybe there was a news in Guardian, maybe somewhere in the corner of some news portal. But the global media, they don't know about it. Why this time we know about it, everyone's talking about it, and there's only ISKCON was attacked. And ISKCON is a globally organized, establishment. And sadly, they remain silent over the years for all the attacks that happened in Bangladesh. And now that they are attacked, they came out on the streets. They had a global protest in more than 63 countries or something, I forgot. Yeah. And where were they all these days, all these years? I mean, where were they? These days wouldn't have come. We were vocal. We were on the streets before, like when Nasinagar happened, when Shavla happened. So our silence is giving them power. Our silence is making them more violent day by day. So this is an example we can take from ISKCON maybe, and maybe we can tell them that stay vocal like this, as always. Thank you.
Okay, I think we should break there because now we're running over time. So if you take 10 minutes, so come back at 25 past. So now we're going to have a little discussion between Himanish and Raj, and it's going to be essentially Raj's lived experience of attacks during the 1992 episode. So everyone please round of applause to Raj. Okay, so
First of all, I would like to thank Raj for making the time and having the courage to talk about his lived experiences of attacks / persecution. How are you, Raj?
Yeah, I'm right.
Can you tell us what happened to you and your family and friends in the year 1992 in Bangladesh?
As far as I remember, basically, I was during that time, I was in year 8 or 9 in secondary school in back home in Bangladesh. And there was a religious attack in India because of the Bible books, because Hindu fundamentalists, they abused, basically demolished like Bible books. And the impact happened in our community in Bangladesh. So that time, I can remember my family were living in big fear, like we couldn't eat because my mom wasn't willing to cooking for like 3-4 days. And my dad, though he was very man, but he was concerned, he was very worried and sad for the situation is going on. He was worried for my young sister and my cousin sister. So what happened, as long as I remember, like, next to our village there was a temple, and fundamentalists, they attacked the temple next to our village, and they torched it. And then after a few days, they tried to attack our village as well, but some people tried to protect us. There were some good people, like they tried to protect us, like they defend us, like so they couldn't do any harmful situation in our village. But after 2-3 days, suddenly, it was, I can remember the day was Friday evening. Around 20 people gathered in a village market, and they came towards our village from the market, and they torched our temple. They torched, yeah. They set fire, like in our temple. The temple basically is just next to my house, because the land of the temple is donated by my father. Okay. And that time, during that time, everybody was in fear in my house, and our neighbors as well.
And just so leading to my next question. How did you feel at that time, and how old were you roughly?
I think I was 14 or 15.
14 or 15
years.
Really young, wasn't it?
Yeah. And well, I can remember, because my uncle was telling my parents, can you please hide them outside the house in the bush?
So basically hide your family?
Yeah, exactly. So especially my sister, like 3 sisters, I can remember my cousins as well. So my father felt confident, because there is some good people in our village. And he was thinking that the situation won't get that worst. They attacked our temple, but he was confident, because they probably won't attack our house.
Did you feel at that time, at any point, that you were going to die? Now, it's a sort of really harsh question, but death couldn't be a possibility, right? Did you ever feel that yourself?
What can I say? Because I will say, because I've been hanging around with so many Muslim young boys, my friends, and uncles as well. They are my father's friend. I know there are so many nice people, and extremists is not too many. And even so I have confidence, and I was scared, but I wasn't thinking that only. I was more scared about my sisters and young girls. I can remember, because our villages, run away from their house and they hide in a benefits. But they only approached the temple and then they ran away basically. So they have done anything harmful to our house or like our neighbors.
So this incident, you're saying is linked to the 1992 sort of the controversy with the Baba Masjid. Is linked to that?
Exactly, yeah.
And it's interesting how what happens in India sometimes has, well, all the time has an impact on Bangladesh, and throughout the year we've seen that. And in 92, for example, if something happening in Bangladesh has an effect, across the sea, over Bangladesh.
It's basically if nothing religious attack happened during that time, not because things been changed. Facebook came now, completely been changed. During that time, I'm talking about 1992, before 1992. If nothing religious attack happened in India, we did it peacefully, to be honest with you. And when something happens, sometimes I feel like, look, I know Babu Mosque has been destroyed by Hindu militant, but it wasn't my fault. I wasn't there. Even Bangladeshi Hindu people wasn't there though. They didn't take part during the demolition of Babu Mosque.
As you well know, in 71, a lot of people moved over to India. Yeah. Did you or your family consider moving there at that time?
What time?
In 92?
No, 92, yeah. My dad was very upset after the attack in our temple in village. And he was thinking probably, because my mom said they moved to India in 1947. And I'm the only son of my parents, so my parents was thinking, okay, we might not migrate in India, but we might they wanted to send me to India, exactly, to get education and get settled down, then eventually they will move.
Okay, so moving to India was a kind of an idea that it never really became.
Because few of our relatives they moved to India, and moving from one country to another country is not an easy thing, because you go settle your business, you go to land property. It's not easy, because my relatives move. They had very good situation while they are in Bangladesh, but they live very poor life when they move to India.
Just on the point about saying people have got businesses and work in their lives. Yeah. Then it relates to us realize in 71, people without choice had to flee. Yeah. There's a lot of belonging behind. Yeah. And obviously we know from history and facts that after they went, their land, their homes were seized from them. Without private permission. So we do something, sure. Does this incident affect you day to day? Like, do you sometimes have there's something called post-traumatic stress disorder, where somebody experiences a very sort of tragic or a very strong, powerful, experience. Do you suffer from that now, that incident? Does it make you
because when I heard that Durga Puja, basically I wasn't involved in the protest before, since I moved in this country 2003. I wasn't involved, but when during Durga Puja attack happened in last October, then I was thinking myself in this position. And then I can remember, then I called Prashantuda, we have to do something, it's completely switched to me. Because I was thinking myself in this position, because I can see since I moved in this country, we didn't have any problem. They were celebrating our religious festival, anything. But problem comes if you look at India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, it's completely different. And I was thinking I could have been there, if I would have moved in this country. So it stirred me a lot.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, your experiences, and it must be really daunting just talking about it, because to have to flee your house and hide in the paddy fields. I mean, just thinking about that for me. I mean, I'm usually fleeing from my baby girl, she's trying to chase me. I'm fleeing from that. That's the only thing I do. But this is fleeing from, from being attacked, death. So I'm sure everybody can feel what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I would like to mention one more thing as well, because one attack happened in our village in the temple.
After what is your village, by the way?
In Fenchurod, Senate. Yeah. So, to be honest with you, Senate wasn't that bad. during the 1992 attack. If you compare other part of Bangladesh, like Ahadi, Gula, and like Noakhali is completely disaster. So what would I say? Like some people, like my father's friend, they're Muslim, but they protected us, and they guarded our house during that time 3-4 days, and they are telling us, look, nothing will happen to you. If they come, they have to first kill us, then they need to go to you. So there is still some people, but some people they take this thing too much. Muslim, like a religious thing, like in a Takapan, they are not. Some people, there are very few number of people, but they use religion as an excuse.
Okay.
And they try to loot Hindu houses, property, land.
So basically they're using religion as a tool to eliminate the
Okay. So what I would say, I know there is some good people in our country, but sometimes they feel it is bad, shouldn't be done. But yes, some people already raise the issue. You need to speak up.
I was speaking up is interesting. In Bangladesh, there's one of the big problems in Bangladesh I observe is there isn't freedom of speech. You cannot actually express yourself without fearing that someone's gonna literally chop your head off. I just take you back to, I think it's 2007, someone might correct me, but there was a blogger, journalist called Abhijit Roy, and his father was a good friend of my father's.
He was a teacher.
And he used to write lots of books about various stuff like secularism and literature, and he was making his way to the Dhaka book fair in Dhaka, it's the biggest book fair, with his wife. And I think it was towards the end of the evening, it's at 9:30, he just walks out with some books that he's purchased, and then a guy comes behind him, and with one hack of an axe, literally takes his head. This is not that long. This is not 71. This is not 47. This is in the last 20 years. And he was just trying to use, his intellect to try and inspire generations to write more, to speak. So, I think people in Bangladesh want to make change, but I think it doesn't help, and we have to talk about, since we can talk about Sheikh Mujib, we have to talk about his daughter who's in power. Now, I'm not going to go into politics too much today, but it doesn't help when a government actually creates laws to silence people. So I think it's called Section 57, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the Section 57 of the ICT Act. So this basically prevents anybody from criticizing the government. And similar to Pakistan, where you have laws of blasphemy, and it's written in the constitution, Bangladesh also doesn't have that written down, but it almost acts as if it is. And as a result of that, people can't speak themselves. And it's scary, because if you can't speak, then you can't call yourself democracy. Yeah. That's not fundamental. We call it democracy, but you can't speak your mind. You can't even address something which is unjust. So that is fundamental. Yeah. How do you that? Yeah. So we're going to wrap up here. Just quickly, does anybody have a question, or one question for Raj?
Share something if you allow me.
It's okay?
On the Babri Mosque.
Yeah, very briefly.
Thank you. I'll be very brief about that. Luckily, the person who's speaking is very brave. Luckily, their family didn't suffer enough during the Babri Mosque attack, and the people were really kind enough to protect them.
Yes.
And we do have good people in Bangladesh. It's not that everyone is bad. But in Bangladesh, after Babri Mosque attack, there were at least 10 or 11 people died in the attacks that happened against the minorities. And at least 15 people were brutalized completely. And if you remember, during that time there was a cricket match it was scheduled between Bangladesh and India, and 5,000 Muslim with iron rods and violent tools in their hands. They attacked the national stadium. And it was scary, I remember how my family went through, and the fear was present all over Bangladesh. So if you Google the aftermath of Babri Mosque attack in Bangladesh, you'll find all the information available there. Thank you.
Alright, so we're going to move on to our next segment. Thank you. Can we have a round of applause for Raj for sharing the space with us? Thank you. especially those who are born up here, will enjoy / relate to. So the topic is obviously, what was it like growing up, being a Hindu Bengali / Hindu Bangladeshi. So with me I've got Donna, she's like my sister, we grew up together and we went to various Saturday classes together, and I'm very happy that she is now one of the admin members for a very successful Instagram page called the Bindus. Bindus basically meaning Bangladeshi Indian True Treasure, and it's really fantastic.
Yeah, sounds like we're really Hindus, so inclusive of Indians and Bangladesh.
Sure. And since the inception, it's been a very useful Instagram page for myself, and also my dad. So my dad, he was 70, and when he saw I've just installed Instagram, so he can also read it, and he likes it, so he gives his thanks to you. So Donna, let's go back to as far as you can remember in terms of like schooling, right? So let's say primary school, secondary school. What was it like for you growing up? And in particular, I want you to sort of talk about like that identity aspect, because this is very key for us.
Well, I think the identity issue is an ongoing thing, because even from school days to even now, we still get questioned about our identity. People question us, for me, how am I Indian, how am I Bengali, or Hindu, all at the same time? But then it just doesn't make sense. And I think a lot of people here can relate to that as well. But for me, personally, I just take like the easy route out, and I guess it's because I've been asked that question so many times, and my easy answer just to say to them is, well, the part of India that I'm from is a Bengali speaking area. That's all I say, and I just like leave it there. And I think it's just because I've been asked it so many times, I'm just used to saying the answer.
So what would be a typical question that would be asked you in terms of where you're from, for example?
What do you mean?
Like, for example, first day at school, first day at college, and you're introducing yourself. So what kind of questions were you faced with?
Well, obviously they ask me where I'm from, because I think you speak Bengali, so it's that whole confusion, and like I said, that's my answer to them, and I've never actually spoken about the truth, and I guess I've been hesitant because I just don't want to get into that conversation, and the actual truth is, I would actually technically be a Bangladeshi if it wasn't for my dad fleeing from Bangladesh to India during the 1971 war. And I remember him telling me the story.
So your father and his family were one of the many families that had to flee?
Yeah, so my dad was a child when he had to flee, and I remember the story of, it was like in the middle of the night, they were basically trying to say, because they heard that there was mobs, obviously Muslim mobs, looking for Hindu people, and kind of similar to Raj's story, there were good people, so there were Muslim people that were helping my dad's family to escape, and that is the truth as to why I'm Indian. But that's what I've done. I've only visited India, I've never been to Bangladesh, so I don't actually know anything about Bangladesh. So that's why for me, my identity is that I'm Indian.
Yeah, I think if you go into sort of semantics and like wording, like Bangladeshi is just a relatively new term, because Bangladesh itself existence is what, 50 years or so. I think we are Bengali culture, Bengali heritage has existed far beyond, like maybe goes back, I don't know, 7, 8 generations, for example. It could be more. But I think the key is when we are faced with some questions, it's tough for us to actually acknowledge where we're from, because there is some kind of, a staple. For example, if I just talk about myself growing up, so obviously most of you know my father. He's a well-known musician and singer in Kenya in 1978. He struggled a lot with his identity. As much as he wanted to follow his faith and his religion, but at the time he came, when we look at the social political context, at that time, the majority of people that moved over were Bangladeshi Muslims. They came over to fill a vacuum in the industry, especially in the catering industry. So my father actually didn't come through that route. As a musician, he was invited to sing here, and he was invited to stay, basically. So that's my father's sort of journey. But he always kept his the Hindu aspect side of him very, very sort of subtle, because he wanted to move into everybody. But he grew up with very good friends, like Donna saying, and I said, I, from my experience, the majority of Bangladeshi Muslims that I've worked with or faced or played music with, they're really good people, and that's a positive thing. I think we have to address it. Growing up in school, for example, in an application form, what is your ethnicity? What's your ethnic background, right? I always thought it was kind of cool to take I'm an Indian Hindu, because I felt insecure about saying I'm Bangladeshi Hindu.
Why did you feel that way?
It's because, if I look into what you said, people didn't believe that I was a Bengali and a Hindu. And it was like, how many times do I have to repeat myself and keep having to reaffirm my identity,
I think what's more surprising is that when we kind of expect non-Asians getting confused with our identity, but when it comes from Bangladeshis or when it comes from Bengalis, we kind of expect them to kind of know, like, do you not know about your country? Do you know about Bangladesh, India? Like, you're from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you move on to a bit about what was life like growing up in your house, and for example, in a community, I think we pretty much grew up together. So we enjoyed being able to celebrate Durga Puja, and we were both fighting
the freedom.
Yeah, exactly. To be able to celebrate our festivals, and my father was one of the sort of founding fathers of our Hindu organization, which Shabbat Association, started in 1982, 1983. And since then, I'm born in the 90s, we actually was able to enjoy our culture. And at home, I grew up with both my grandmothers, so we had like pujas and stuff. And us Hindus, we got festivals pretty much every month. We got twice a month is Ekadashi, then Davashi. Then, so in my house, I grew up with the festival and the culture. Was it similar to yours?
Yeah, exactly the same. Yes, also we're lucky that here we have the freedom to be able to celebrate how we want to.
Yeah. So I think we both are very much in awe and respect our parents for the struggle involved. Like you said, your family had to flee. My father also had to flee to India. Of course, they came back to Bangladesh, to their homeland. But I think we should always think about the struggle our parents made. That's really like a touching thing, to just stop and think. Our parents gave us such a beautiful upbringing, totally contrast to what they were brought up with war and famine, for example. Moving on swiftly, as they say. Can you talk a bit about what, and this is the last segment of our talk, is what made you come up with your Instagram page, Big News? And just talk a bit about when you started it, and how you keep it going, what really motivates you really?
So initially, why we decided to create this page was because we kind of felt like we didn't fit into any sort of particular groups. And there are so many Bengali Instagram pages already out there, and which obviously we followed, but then we slowly started noticing that they were not inclusive of all Bengalis. It has improved now, and we have spoken out to some of these pages as well ourselves, saying how comes it's not inclusive, because you claim to be a Bengali page, it should be a generic Bengali page, or you talk about all Bengalis. So that's what kind of made us decide to create our page. And it was a bit of fun as well, but at the same time, we make educational posts and just bring about awareness, and just trying to teach people about us, about Bengali Hindus. So it's been quite positive. Obviously we do get some backlash. We do get national comments, but it is.
Just talking about how we can raise awareness, that's one example. Like, we are very fortunate to live in this era where we've got technology. Now, technology is like a gun, right? It could be used positively or used negatively, right? And we are asking, like, there's one news page. What is stopping you from creating a page? That's how you can reach people. We can sit here, create a page, post it, and someone in the far corner of the earth can read that. So our reach is more powerful than what it was in 71, where you had to write a letter, you used to go by ship, and by the time you get it, the person that wrote it has passed away. No, that's the reality of it. Now we can use our social media. What would you like to say, just concluding this bit, to everybody here, especially the youngsters here? social media is something you definitely recommend to everyone to do. Most will have it, but to be active on it.
Yeah, as I said earlier as well, try and share posts, bring awareness. If you want to do your own thing, make your own page, then go for it. We did have people asking us as well, how can they open a page, so we kind of gave them advice, and they started up their own page as well. So we do know people that have done it as well.
And just a bit of marketing, please follow me with this.
Like it, I'm going to hand over
to Oliver now.
Thank you guys for that. So, I won't spend too much time on this. Who went to one of the protests in October?
Wow. Well done,
Amazing.
guys.
You guys did, yeah. Okay, right, so, I mean, I can spend all day just talking about how amazed I was about the turnout. This picture on the left, you see, I know it's in black and white, but that procession train just went on forever. I just couldn't believe it. Bengali Hindus in one place protesting. I mean, I've never heard that before. Have you guys? I don't know, but I haven't. And I did want to shout out to UCL Manasok quickly before I forget. I remember when I was at uni here at UCL, the Manasok was founded around 2005, 2006, I think it was. Yeah, I know, a long time ago. And that was the only Manasok that took the members to Durga Puja in Camden Town was back then. I never heard of any others. I mean, I had friends in Queen Mary, they had a Manasok. They didn't do that, so credit them. So really this is just a bit of a shout out really. So this protest was amazing, right? But it was organised by the Bangladeshi Hindu Association UK, and we've got two esteemed leaders from that organisation here with us today, and they founded and started this movement really back in 2001. I mentioned the 2001 elections when Hindus were persecuted then, and a group of Bengali Hindus back then, all the way back in 2001, didn't have Instagram and Facebook back then, but they organised and they got together and they had a similar protest as we did in October. And I just want to shout out to Shopping Brown and Shooting Down. Please stand up, just right in the back.
We just initiated. No, I think I will go. So, good now. Anyway, I'm just telling that Bangladesh Durga Puja initiated it when we organized about 23 organizations from all over the UK to come together here. So we are the initiator, but everybody participated. 21 organizations there, including the Indian Forum. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, next will be Shokar, please, the president of BHA.
Thank you very much. May I just go back a little bit from 2001, and some of the youngsters raised some questions and concerns and raised points. Can I address some of this very briefly? About the identity. Identity, just as Thomas said, her dad went to India in 1971. Now, she didn't know anything about this and everything, about her culture and everything. One thing, if we concentrate in the UK, is multiculturalism. In this country, all of us respect each other, each culture. We celebrate Diwali, Durga Puja, Eid, and all other religious or cultural celebration, and Christmas especially. So, in Bangladesh, what I would say, everybody, if we go back to 1947, is the people has divided, family has divided, country India. Just for example, my wife is in India, I'm a Bangladeshi, so what my son is going to do? He has to follow the culture of origin. So identity of origin, if we think think about it, then we can connect with each other. Doesn't matter wherever in the world you have gone to. The people divide ourselves by thinking of Bangladesh and India. Or what about Great Britain? What about Canada, America, Australia? Nobody says that. So this is the way we can unite ourselves. We need to think about this. One thing. Other thing I would like to talk about is what our generation or forefathers has contributed to the country of origin. 80% of the casualty in 1971 were Hindus. So if somebody says Hindus as a citizen of Bangladesh do not have any right to live without fear, this is not fair. And that's what I would like everybody to consider first. That's major things. So, other person was talking about, who knows, is there any Hindus in Bangladesh? Yes, when I came to this country as a student in 1986. When I was speaking to anybody, I was saying my name, then I had to explain it, at least 1 minute saying that. How could I be Bangladesh? And also, I have met people in this country saying, other people are saying, if you are a Hindu, how could you be from Bangladesh? So that was the situation. In the UK I'm talking about. People would not know about there are Hindus in Bangladesh. And then we started shouting out, who are we, our identity. If we don't talk about it, and all of these guys here, Donna, and the Himanish, everybody knows. I have been pushing them, talking to them, explaining to them, saying that that is your identity of origin. You need to talk about what you have started. It took about 30 years, 25 years, but this is happening, talking about people. And this gentleman says, how can we connect to each other? Many ways we can connect to each other. Connect by religion, if you are not a religious person or not that religion, connect by culture. Those who have gone to India, they have not left their culture behind in Bangladesh. Those who have come to this country, they have not left their cultures. We can unite ourselves, connect to each other, and be friendly and support each other as a human being. Then one thing we did, why did we form this Bangladesh Hindu Association UK? Because we wanted to let people know there are Hindus in Bangladesh. We wanted to let people know I am originally from Bangladesh. If we don't identify ourselves, speak up, nobody could help us. Who are you? You cannot do something as a third party. That's what you need to do. So in 2001, when that atrocity taking place in Bangladesh, we formed this organization, went to Bangladesh High Commission. We recognized there are Hindus in Bangladesh. Tony Blair was going to Bangladesh at that time. I phoned Downing Street. I said, I would like to go to Downing Street before he goes to Bangladesh, and submitted a petition. And since then, we started campaigning and talking to people, and we made the protest in front of House of Commons and took it forward in talking to MPs and many other people. And since then, we have been going through one after another, the protest and raising our voice and uniting everybody. And now what has happened today, everybody is coming forward. Young generation, they are taking it forward. Thank you very much for organizing this and joining this.
We're sort of running out of time. Just very quickly before Omid comes in, I just want to talk about this protest that we were involved in. I've never experienced something like this before. We started off at House of Parliament quite early in the day. I didn't see many people at the beginning. And slowly, you start to see people connecting from Yorkshire, Scotland, and it felt like something was about to happen. And we were in Parliament for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we marched across Oxford Street, right? Look how many people there. That was all the way back and then around. It's at least about 700 plus people. I was an educated guest there. And I think that's phenomenal. And we didn't only have Bangladeshi Hindus present there. We had For example, Privilege came, some of his friends came, I had some of my friends who don't belong to Bangladesh anymore, but people felt this is about unity now. This is not about anything else. I was present for the Palestine march myself. I'm present for everything because I believe that that's important. But this was a monumental day, and by the way, I took those pictures. Thank you.
Okay, right, so we're just going to share some final thoughts. I know we'll be just talking, and your ears will be hurting now. You're going to get a chance to share more of your thoughts. So we've asked ourselves this question now: do minorities have a place in a prosperous Bangladesh? So we know that Bangladesh is doing really, really well. It's got a very strong GDP, considering it's only 50 years old now. Its GDP per capita is even slightly higher than India at the moment, so it's pretty phenomenal, right? And we know why, don't we? Made in Bangladesh, I think it's the world's second largest exporter of garments, right? Now we picked this picture on purpose, you can tell why, there's a stain, right? So we think there is, even though this growth is phenomenal, there's a stain, a hidden stain, but we think we want to expose it. Just because once you start talking about it and bringing it to light, then things start changing. So we'd like to share our thoughts, and Shilpi, I'd like to come to you first, please, to answer this question.
Sure. So I think my thoughts on this are anything's possible, and like some of you guys have said in the audience, it's just a matter of unity. And I think we can make this happen, right? Thinking about Gandhi and a non-violence movement, I'm sure people must have laughed at him at that time. So if he was able to do that, then in this day and age where we've got so much freedom and power, we could do anything. But it's a matter of choice. So that's what I think. So it's not that it's not impossible, but we've all got to unite to make that happen.
I'd like to come to John next.
I think obviously at the moment it's not looking great for Bangladeshi Hindus because of these attacks, these continuous attacks. And when these attacks do happen, I feel like people tend to focus on the smaller aspects as opposed to the bigger picture, the bigger problem in the picture. But I feel like there is hope if, as Shilpi was saying, if everyone kind of comes together and if Bangladeshi Hindus do get the support that they need and the coverage that they need, and I think it kind of needs to start with education, so that everyone is aware and about the culture and just respecting each other's beliefs.
Thank you, Donna.
I think humanity comes first, basically. Now, and it is the awareness, some people from here, they say, some of them, they put the symbol, but they don't share it. They feel it, but I don't know, they will share it. They think, okay, probably my friend will get offended. But it's not about offended, because it's honesty, if you feel it, you should share it. And then, what I think, people shouldn't take something religious or something too serious, just leave it inside. And if there was the way they put Quran, Holy Quran in the feet of Hanuman. If you think that, I know it's bad, never did it, but you don't want the people to judge it. If you believe in God or Allah, he will judge it. It's not easy, you need to take the responsibility. If you believe, all the religion doesn't have violence basically. And you talk about it, but you don't follow it. So if you follow that there is no place for violence in the religion, and if you feel like humanity comes first, then probably you can go forward. Thank you very much.
To answer the question straight, do minorities have a place in Bangladesh? I would like for that to happen, but we don't live in a perfect land. We have to see this as a reality, is that as the years have gone by, the population of Hindus in Bangladesh have been decreasing. That's a fact. That's an objective fact. No one can dispute that. So, do they have a place? Of course they have a place. That's their homeland. But will they stay there for longer? I'm not that optimistic, personally. I think the direction which the government has gone is not helped. I think we've got a government who's not really, who talks to reasonable lip service. Czechoslovakia was basically pressurized by the Indian government to sort of make a statement. I'm not going to take that as if she's going to do anything. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, there's not much justice happening either, for these people. I'm not that optimistic, but there is a bit of me that has a bit of optimism, and that's in the people of Bangladesh. There was a Shabbat protest a couple of years ago. Shabbat is a place in Dhaka, if I'm correct, and millions of millions of sort of conscious Bangladeshi citizens got together and had a massive protest, and it was really inspiring. So that gives us hope. I'm just going to finish my part with the Bangladesh national anthem. I'm not going to sing, so I'm not singing, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the English version of it very quickly. My Bengal of gold, I love you. Forever your skies, your air set my heart in tune, as if it were a flute. In spring, O mother mine, the fragrance of your mango grows, making wild with joy. Oh, what a thrill! In autumn, O mother mine, in the full blossom paddy fields, I have spread all those sweet smiles. Ah, what beauty, what shades, what affection, and what tenderness. What a course have you spread at the feet of banyan trees and along the banks of rivers. Oh, mother mine, words from your lips are like nectar to my ears. Ah, what a thrill. If sadness, oh mother mine, casts a bloom on your face, my eyes are filled with tears. Golden Bengal, I love you. Thank you.
So I'll just quickly share my thoughts, I won't take long now. So, do minorities have a place in prosperous Bangladesh? Well, if the Durga Puja attacks happened in March, and it was the same response from the world and Britain and my friends and colleagues, then I would say no. But this October, I think there was an awakening personally, and I feel very positive about it. It's the first time that a non-Bengali, British, I'm going to point to you, has actually come and talked to me about being Bengali Hindu. First time in my life. I've got loads of non-Bengali friends. I've got loads of Indian Hindu friends. Never talked about it. Never been interested. It's the first time. So thank you very much for that. The fact about seeing that imagery of that long procession still stays with me, and I know it's a bit kind of salty, but I think I'm going to take it to the day I die, that image of Bengali Hindus coming together. I've never thought I'd ever see it. So, those couple of things. As well as my dad saying, because I've asked him a number of times, why don't you go to India? Why don't we go to India? Why don't we just check it out? I even say, when we went to, just before the pandemic, went to Bangladesh, and I told him the itinerary, I'm like, we're going to go to Mumbai. Are you excited? Like, why am I going to India? No offense to any Indians here. So I was like, I'm ambitious. I want to spend as much time as I can in my homeland. I was born there. His father, my granddad, was born there. So he has no doubt in his mind that is his home, and no one's going to evict him. That's him, right? Everyone has a personal take on it. So those things, I think, makes me feel positive. But like I said, it's a state, and we need to work out, and we need to work together to do that. So thank you very much. We're moving on to the floor now. Right, we've got 15 minutes. So please, if you've got any questions to ask, or you want to share your thoughts on this question, please, the floor is yours.
So I'm too loud. Anyway, I'm just telling that Bangladesh Hindu Puja initiated when we organized about 23 organizations from all over the UK to come together here. So we are the initiator, but everybody participated. 21 organizations there, including DHA for Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, next will be Shokran, please, the president of DHA.
Thank you very much. May I just go back a little bit from 2001, and some of the youngsters who has raised some questions and concern and raised points, can I address some of this very briefly? About the identity. Identity, just as Donna said, her dad went to India in 1971. Now, she didn't know anything about this and everything, about her culture and everything. One thing, if we concentrate in the UK, is multiculturalism. In this country, all of us respect each other, each culture. We celebrate Diwali, Durga Puja, Eid, and all other religious or cultural celebration. Christmas especially. So in Bangladesh, what I would say everybody, if we go back to 1947, is the people has divided, family has divided, country India. Just for example, my wife is in India, I'm a Bangladeshi, so what my son is going to do? He has to follow the culture of origin, that's what I say. So identity of origin, if we think about it, then we can connect with each other. Doesn't matter wherever in the world you have gone to. The people divide ourselves by thinking of Bangladesh and India. Or what about Great Britain? What about Canada, America, Australia? Nobody says that. So this is the way we can unite ourselves. We need to think about this, one thing. Other thing I would like to talk about is what our generation, our forefathers has contributed to the country of origin. 80% of the casualty in 1971 were Hindus. So if somebody says Hindus, as a citizen of Bangladesh, do not have any right to live without fear, this is not fair. And that's what I would like everybody to consider first. That's major things. So, other person was talking about, who knows, is there any Hindus in Bangladesh? Yes, when I came to this country as a student in 1986. When I was speaking to anybody, I was saying my name, then I had to explain it at least 1 minute, saying that, how could I be a Bangladesh? And also, I have met people in this country saying, other people are saying, if you are a Hindu, how could you be from Bangladesh? So that was the situation. In the UK I'm talking about. People do not know about there are Hindus in Bangladesh. And then we started shouting out, who are we, our identity? If we don't talk about it, and all of these guys here, Donna, the Himanish, everybody knows. I have been pushing them, talking to them, explaining to them, saying that that is your identity of origin. We need to talk about what you have started. It took about 30 years, 25 years, but this is happening, talking about people. And this gentleman says, how can we connect to each other? Many ways we can connect to each other. Connect by religion, if you are not religious person, or not that religion, connect by culture. Those who have gone to India, they have not left their culture behind in Bangladesh. Those who have come to this country, they have not left their cultures. We can unite ourselves, connect to each other, and be friendly and support each other as a human being. Then one thing we did, why did we form this Bangladesh Hindu Association UK? Because we wanted to let people know there are Hindus in Bangladesh. We wanted to let people know I am originally from Bangladesh. If we don't identify ourselves, speak out, nobody could help us. Who are you? You cannot do something as a third party. That's what you need to do. So in 2001, when that atrocity taking place in Bangladesh, we formed this organization, when the Bangladesh High Commission. We recognized there are Hindus in Bangladesh. Tony Blair was going to Bangladesh at that time. I phoned Downing Street. I said, I would like to go to Downing Street before he goes to Bangladesh, and submitted a petition. And since then, we started campaigning and talking to people, and we made a protest in front of House of Commons and took it forward in talking to MPs and many other people. And since then, we have been going through one after another in the protest and raising our voice and uniting everybody. And now what has happened today, everybody is coming forward. Young generation, they are taking it forward. Thank you very much for organizing this and joining.
Thank you so much,
can you hear me? I think regardless of religion, humanity should come first. Like, I think 4 to 5 years ago, I was reading an article, so it was during the time of Ramadan, Muslim people were coming to the temple to break their fast. That's the stuff you want to see as a human. You want to see people coming together regardless of religion, sexuality, race, gender, color, whatever. You want to see that people come together. I think we as a youth have a role to remove any indoctrination or spreading hate or inciting hate through religion. Religion is beautiful. Like, God is described as omnibenevolent, omnipotent, and probably the all-judging. Not many people realize that it's this last thing, but that is our role to remove that. And what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to be Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Jew to like stand up for these things. You need to be human, and that's the main thing, in my opinion. And that's what I'm trying to leave you with today. Thank you.
Well done. So just pass it down to
I'd just like to touch on the point that Donna and Imanish had their conversation earlier on. Thank you for that piece. I've experienced that throughout the whole of my life, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people here have. I'd just like to touch upon education, because I think that's what's lacking here. It's been raised slightly, but are we Hindu Bengalis? What are we? Why are we? That's a question that a lot of people have experienced. But education isn't the sole responsibility of an institution. You have a right to education, but you also have a responsibility towards providing education. Educate your friends, your family, your children, your colleagues. Those who don't know what Hindu Bengali is, explain to them what you are. Don't ever feel afraid. I know we've obviously lived in a society where we've been a bit kind of, we've had to be enclosed and be a bit within the wardrobe and not having to speak about it because we feel awkward, but now's the time. And if you don't do it now, then your children will suffer that, and a whole generation will vanish. So yeah, that's mine.
I would just like to add something what Omid said about his dad. My dad did not leave the country in 1947. This is about how much we love our motherland, our country. And my father was killed, my uncle was killed, a member of my family was killed in 1971. Still, we did not leave the country. So this is the question saying that is it our fault to love our country and we have to face this atrocity again and again and again? Do we lose our right because of loving the country to face the attack and discrimination? That's it. Thank you. Any more?
really sorry. I'm like getting back to you again and again. But because we are coming to an end, I would like to congratulate all the youngsters who have come forward today to talk about Bengali Hindu identities and to be with the people of Bangladesh who are suffering. What I would like to say is, if you stand up like this, the way you are doing now, the way you did in the parliament protest, this kind of oppression and the tortures will eventually eliminate. I believe that. So you have to be constantly there in support of people, no matter what religion they belong to, no matter what their identity is. Like, maybe we can connect with them with Bengali identity, maybe we can connect with them with Hindu identity, maybe we can connect with them only as human beings, you know? I'll just take a couple of minutes just to share an experience of mine, what I had last week. I was in a panel discussion with the Muslims who were suffering in India, and I was constantly being shut down by them because they were comparing that what's happening in Bangladesh is nowhere being compared to India. And I was surprised. How can you compare? How can you compare the atrocities that have been going on anywhere in the world against humanity? How can you do that? No atrocity is less. Like, even if one person is suffering, it is a suffering, and they're suffering because of their identity. You need to understand that there might be people who would be shutting you down, telling that there is no religious oppression going on in Bangladesh because it's all political. It's the government doing, our league doing, BNP doing, Jamaat Islam is doing, Pasat Islam is doing. Shut them down. Tell them that these atrocities may be political. Maybe they are doing it for political reasons, but they are doing it against only one identity of people, only against the Hindu minorities of Bangladesh, to gain whatever they want, maybe land, maybe political power, whatever it is. But this is a genocide going on in Bangladesh against the Hindu minorities. So you need to be very clear when you go outside in any platform and talk about it, talk about these issues. You need to be very clear in your mind what you are talking about, and don't let anyone shut you down. Talk about it. We will be there in support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Didi. You didn't introduce yourself, so I'm going to do it for you. So, Ajanta Debraj, founder of a movement called Humane First. Be Humane First. So this is a movement which has been a success and is still going on. And maybe you don't know, Ajanta is very vocal about human rights. She's been in courts. She's taken on loads of cases. She's involved very much, and she's a lady. She's a Bangladeshi lady in the UK talking about human rights. Like, that in itself is so inspiring. At the back, in the yellow hoodie over there, give us a wave. We have Pushpita Gupta. She's also she's the president of Secular Movement Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So
I'd just like to add, she's actually my biggest inspiration for everything that I've been doing or trying to do and achieve. I think she's a great person to discuss and get information from. And I just want to say, Pushpita, you've been amazing. Thank you.
I want you to say a few words, please. I know you're not camera shy. There's no cameras.
Thank you. Do you know what? She feared everybody and only me. In one point, like we all give up, thinking it's no point of fighting for this and it's no point of doing anymore. This protest is been too long. After coming to tonight, honestly, I almost cried. Well, like thinking, oh my God, these people are coming forward. And this is what I wanted. When my daughter was talking over there, sitting beside me, I just stopped breathing, like, oh my God, this is what I've been fighting for. This is what my daughter to talk about it. I want you guys to talk about it, and this is what is happening. Honestly, I feel like we have won. Shapoda has won, Shujita, whoever have been fighting for this cause for many years. And I feel like I have won, and I have done something. Actually, I have done something. Thank you. Thank you tonight, and keep on supporting this and keep on supporting Bindu. To to be honest, I have downloaded Instagram because Omi said you have to do it. Every time when I get the time, I try to do it, but I have to educate myself. And I promise I'm going to go home and ask my daughter to educate me.
It's not hard. It's not hard.
Thank you. I'm a Facebook person. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that quickly that actually on the secular movement, I think about a couple of years ago with Push we had it was a smaller group of protesters outside the parliament, and it just goes to show where we've gone from maybe 2-3 years ago to now where we are with almost over 700 people protesting, and that is the power of unity.
Okay. I have to, because I'm here, I have to give you all a very good news, very, extremely good news, the best news ever. A head preacher was coming to UK, and you have been writing, you have been protesting, and he cannot come. So he was stopped at Qatar airport like 2 weeks ago. And this fundamentalist gone to High Court today and spent £50,000, and he got refused. So, thank you.
That is a fantastic piece of news. I mean, the UK does not welcome any hate preachers, regardless of religion. And with £50,000, that could have been a good deposit on a house. I mean, outside of London, but he wasted it in court. He lost. So shame. Anyway, I'm going to have another question.
Yeah, that's good. Any more questions? Any more thoughts you want to share? We've got a bit of time still.
I like this group. Everyone's so interactive.
I think one of the points we have heard here is that find anything that we can to connect with people, and I think we can all agree that music is one that connects people. So whenever such topic comes to religions fighting what to do about it, I always get reminded of this one poem that I was taught in my school when I was in India, when I was in 4th or 5th grade there. I don't remember the whole poem, but one excerpt of it always sticks in my head when such type of questions come. It goes by the saying, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, sab aapas mein bhai bhai. This is always that rings in my head whenever such a question arises. Just wanted to share that.
That's beautiful.
Any more thoughts, questions? Got a couple more minutes. Yeah.
Kumar, I just wanted to thank the UCL Banking Society for hosting this event, because at least in my experience, a lot of bank societies are more discount for Bangladeshi residents, whereas at least in my experience, UCL Banking Society has always been there to support Indian Bengalis, Bangladeshi Hindus, and it's always been a very welcoming space. And I think it's really amazing that this event was held and that UCL Banking Society organised this.
Okay, so any more thoughts, questions on that? This is extremely quiet. Any questions now? If not, I'm going to give the mic to Stephen to say a few words. That's okay.
Thanks so patient.
So I'll just explain. So regardless of this will happen, because Margaret is originally reached out to the British Minorities page. So it's not how we reached out to Amazon, they reached out to us. So they said, do you want to speak up about this? We'd love to give you a platform. So without the film of this meeting,
thank you guys for coming. You all have such great things to say, and it's been a very interactive audience as well, so thank you all. I'd just like to say that so I'm originally from Bangladesh, I'm Muslim, and I feel like the women in the Muslim community are very silent on this, whereas they're very vocal about stuff that happens in general, whether it's unfair or if it's in the UK, or like Palestine, and that's not even really their country. So I got really like sad actually to see that no one's mentioning anything about the October attacks. So I really did want to like reach out to you guys for that. And through that I've learned so much just by organising the event, and I didn't actually realise the scale of what happened and how this has gone all the way back to history. So it's been very like enlightening for me as well. I hope everyone learned something new by coming.
I'm just going to thank you guys for coming and your incredible, you've educated me so much. I came here not knowing much about the attacks, being a bit uneducated myself, and I think a lot of your stories resonated with me as well, being a minority in this country and the experiences you went through. So thank you, very inspirational, and you guys, thank you so much for being so lovely and interactive, and it was amazing hearing your stories as well, and all of your thoughts.
What's your item? Are you at which society?
I'm the president of our society.
So I'm going to say a couple words as well. So I'm not Bengali, I'm Gujarati, but just coming here today, I've always heard about like a Bengali spirit, like a pride and like love for everyone. I actually got to see it today in person. Before this, I only met one and that was at university. So after 18 years of my life, 19, I only met one person. And now seeing it, I can actually see like the amount of love, like the passion that everyone has. I'm really inspired by that. Like Indian culture in general, it shows so much about Bengali culture. There are great things like that, and actually shaped and led so much for us. I just think that culture should not be obviously wiped out, and we have to be able to stop that. So yeah, that's what I really want to say.
Okay, right, so we're just going to close the session now. Firstly, can we have our audience please? Thank you.